My sister used to be the golden child, and now that we're older, she demands that I buy her kids everything I buy for mine, even though her kids aren't my responsibility, so I decided to teach her a lesson. I'm 34, a woman living in Texas, married to my husband Adam for almost 10 years now, and we have 2 wonderful kids. Our son Jackson is 6, and our daughter Lily just turned 4. Life isn't perfect, but we've worked hard to build something stable. I work in healthcare admin, and Adam runs his own landscaping business. We're not rich, but we live comfortably, and we make smart choices about money. That's a huge contrast to how I grew up, and especially compared to how my older sister Madison did. Madison is 36 and a single mom to 3 kids, Ava, 10, Micah, 8, and Rosie, 5. And to be blunt, Madison has always been our parents' favorite. I mean it in the most textbook definition of golden child you can imagine. When we were growing up, everything Madison did was brilliant, or creative, or expressive. Meanwhile, I was the easy one, because I got straight A's, kept quiet, and did my chores. I didn't make waves, and that seemed to mean I didn't need support. I remember in high school when I made honor roll for the 6th semester in a row, and my parents barely looked up from the TV. But when Madison got caught shoplifting makeup from the Walgreens down the street, they acted like it was some spiritual crisis and rushed to take her to therapy. I was just expected to be okay, always. It didn't bother me that much as a teenager. I figured once we grew up and started our own lives, things would balance out. But they didn't. If anything, the favoritism mutated. It evolved into this strange, entitled expectation that I would fill in the blanks where Madison failed. Like because I had my life together, I was automatically responsible for cushioning hers. Madison never finished college. She floated from job to job, sometimes as a barista, then a receptionist, once even tried selling essential oils for 6 months. She got pregnant with Ava at 25, and 2 more kids followed in pretty quick succession. The dads? All gone. Madison lives in our parents' guest house. Rent-free. Utility-free. Responsibility-free, from what I can tell. And I wish I could say she was grateful, but honestly, she acts like the whole world owes her for being a single mom. I've never judged her for struggling. Being a parent is hard even with a partner. But the thing is, I never signed up to be her safety net. And yet, that's what she expects from me. It started with little things. I bought Lily a new pastel dress for Easter, and Madison sent me a message asking why I didn't get anything for Ava and Rosie too. I thought it was a joke. I laughed and said, because they're not my kids. And she actually had the audacity to reply, but they're your nieces. I let it go. Then, in May, we threw Jackson a birthday party. He got a brand new bike from us, his first real 2-wheeler, and we posted some pictures. The next morning, I got a message from Madison with 3 Amazon links for kids' bikes. She said Micah was heartbroken and that he felt left out watching Jackson get something so nice. I didn't even respond. But it kept escalating. At Christmas, we bought our kids tablets, nothing fancy, just Fire tablets with kid protections and some educational apps. We didn't post about it or anything, but somehow, Madison found out. And wouldn't you know it, the day after Christmas, she showed up uninvited with all 3 of her kids. She had clearly told them there would be gifts at our house. I'll never forget Ava looking at me and saying, "Did Santa forget us because we're poor?" I was stunned. And Madison? She sat on our couch and fake cried, literally wiped away tears with her sleeve, saying, "It's just so hard when I can't give them what they deserve." That wasn't even subtle manipulation. That was theater. And when I didn't offer to give her kids our backup iPad, she left in a dramatic huff and didn't speak to me for weeks. Fast forward to spring break. Adam and I had been planning a trip to Disney World for over a year. We'd been saving slowly, and it was going to be our first big vacation as a family. Jackson is obsessed with Toy Story, and Lily loves Moana, so it felt like the perfect time. We didn't invite anyone. We didn't ask for help. We just took our kids and made magical memories. When we got back, I posted a handful of photos. Just a few. One of Lily hugging a Moana character, another of Jackson waving at Buzz Lightyear. Harmless stuff. The next day, my phone rang. It was Madison. She didn't even say hello. She started in immediately, "How could you be so cruel? I had no idea what she was talking about. She said it was inhumane to take my kids on a vacation like that while hers watched from a screen. I swear, she made it sound like I had forced her children to sit in front of a slideshow of our vacation pictures like it was some psychological experiment. I told her, very plainly, that she was being ridiculous. That we paid for our trip with our own money, and it was not my job to equalize the experience for 5 children. That's when she said it, if you can afford it, you should take all 5 kids next time. We're family. I was so stunned that I didn't even hang up, I just stared at the wall while she kept talking, explaining how we have to lift each other up and it's what good sisters do. I realized then that nothing was ever going to change. She wasn't just entitled, she felt owed. And not just by our parents, but by me. I was being punished for not failing. For having stability. For providing a safe and happy life for my own kids. And something in me snapped. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I wasn't going to reason with her or try to set boundaries she'd ignore. I was going to let her finally live out the fantasy our parents created, just not in the way she expected. I planned a golden child reunion. So a few weeks later, after Madison's delusional rant about how I should bankroll vacations for 5 kids instead of 2, I decided it was time to stop talking and start showing. And I don't mean showing off, I mean showing her the real impact of favoritism, the quiet injustice I lived with all my life, the shadow of not needing help that followed me from childhood into motherhood. If she was so eager to play the "we're family" card whenever it meant free stuff or guilt trips, then I was going to let her sit front row for a different kind of family lesson. I told her I was throwing a joint birthday party for all the cousins. Everyone's birthdays are spread out through the year, but I spun it as a way to celebrate them all together, save money, and let the kids make memories. She jumped at the idea, of course she did, and even asked if she needed to bring anything. I told her not to worry, I had it all covered. That was the first honest thing I'd said in that whole conversation. I went all out. I rented a bounce house with a castle theme, hired a magician who had performed at professional events, and even booked a face painter who specialized in princesses and superheroes. I ordered balloons, had themed decorations, and strung fairy lights across our backyard like we were hosting a festival instead of a party. But the piece de resistance? The t-shirts. I got matching t-shirts printed for all the kids, a cheerful, sunny yellow with a big cartoon crown on the back. For Jackson and Lily, the front said, VIP guest. For Madison's kids, just their names in plain black font. Nothing rude. Just, unequal. Very deliberately unequal. Next came the goodie bags. For my kids, I stuffed them with mini drones, customized candy with their names on the wrappers, little plushies of their favorite characters, and premium Crayola art supplies, the good kind that doesn't smear like dollar store wax. For Madison's kids, I filled their bags with off-brand stickers, a single glow stick, and small jigsaw puzzles from the discount aisle. No names. No labels. Just cheap filler that looked sad next to the luxe version sitting beside them. The cake sealed the message. 3 tiers, frosted in amber buttercream, decorated with little figurines of a boy riding a bike and a girl in a fairy dress, meant to mimic Jackson and Lily. I had a custom baker write on the top in gold script, to the most loved kids in the world, Jackson and Lily. Madison arrived about 15 minutes late, which I had expected. She rolled up with her usual chaotic energy, one kid missing a shoe, another crying about sunscreen in their eye, and the youngest already sticky with juice from who knows where. She barely looked at me before launching into how hard it had been to get them out the door and how she hoped I had extra cupcakes because her kids really deserved a treat today. I smiled and welcomed them in, ushering the kids toward the t-shirt table. That's where the first cracks showed. Ava picked up her plain shirt and held it next to Jackson's VIP guest version. She asked why hers didn't say the same thing, and Madison glanced at me like I'd handed her a live grenade. I said in the most pleasant tone, "Oh, these were just for the birthday kids," and turned to adjust the balloon arch like nothing had happened. Madison tried to laugh it off, saying something about how it was cute, but her voice had a strange edge. It wouldn't be the last time that day. The magician was a hit. The kids were screaming with laughter, and Jackson even got to assist with a card trick. The magician handed him a golden wand to keep. Madison's son Micah asked for one too, and the magician awkwardly said he only had one golden wand, for the birthday VIP. I caught the look Madison shot me then. It was half disbelief, half rage, and I savored it. We moved on to the goodie bags before cake. The moment the bags were handed out, the temperature in the backyard shifted. Jackson and Lily squealed over their drones and toys. Rosie pulled out her discount puzzle with a confused frown. Ava whispered something to Madison, who was now visibly clenching her jaw. Then came the cake. I made a big show of gathering everyone around and lighting the candles while Adam took pictures. I had everyone sing, and when I pulled off the cake box lid, the message in gold lettering made Madison freeze. To the most loved kids in the world, Jackson and Lily. It was no accident that her kids were standing right beside mine when they read it. She stood there stiff as a board for about 5 seconds, and then the fuse finally lit. She marched over to me and hissed, "What kind of example are you setting for these children?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, "Just the one I learned from growing up." That was it. No shouting. No drama from me. Just a simple statement soaked in history. She exploded. Right there in the middle of the party, surrounded by kids with frosting on their faces and parents awkwardly sipping juice pouches. She shouted that I was cruel, vindictive, petty, all while her kids looked around, confused and hurt. She said I was damaging them and that I had no right to treat them differently. I said nothing. I let her rant. I let the heat of her own words consume her, the same way I had to sit through years of being the afterthought, the second-class daughter, the invisible sibling. She tried to gather her things with as much dignity as possible, but there's only so much dignity you can have while dragging a confused 5-year-old off a bounce house because her glitter butterfly face paint wasn't done drying. Parents around us quietly avoided eye contact. Some were obviously on my side, I could tell by their stiff smiles and the way they turned away from Madison's tantrum. Others just looked awkward, trying to shield their kids from the scene. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't say thank you. She just stormed off, dragging her confused kids behind her. The morning after the party, I woke up to a string of missed calls and voicemails from my parents. I didn't need to listen to a single one to know what the tone was, I could already see the subject line in their minds, damage control. Still, I poured myself a coffee, sat down in the sunroom, and gave them a call back, fully prepared for the guilt train to roll in on time. They were absolutely livid. My mother's voice was sharp with outrage, accusing me of publicly humiliating Madison's children, of creating a class divide among cousins, and of being vindictive for no reason. My father chimed in with something about how children should never be used as pawns in adult conflict. The irony nearly made me laugh out loud. I let them talk, let them rant, let the outrage pour out of them like it always had, but this time, I didn't retreat into silence like the good daughter. I calmly reminded them of something they had conveniently chosen to forget. I reminded them how, growing up, Madison always got the better bike, the brand-name clothes, the larger bedroom, the louder birthday parties, while I was expected to be the one who understood. I reminded them how they always justified giving her more with lines like, "She needs it more right now," or "You're just more responsible." I reminded them of every time they told me no, while telling her yes, and how they never once considered the resentment that planted. I told them I was done pretending I owed anyone anything simply because I had worked hard to create a stable life. They could choose to be angry, but I wasn't going to apologize for holding up a mirror. They hung up on me. I figured that would be the worst of it. But no, Madison had to go full scorched earth. That same day, she lit up our family group chat with a dramatic novel-length rant. She accused me of using money to hurt children, of raising my kids to be smug little brats, and of loving the feeling of making others feel small. She even said I was just like the girls in high school who made fun of poor kids' shoes. The projection was almost artful. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. What she didn't expect was that people were watching, quietly, but closely. Over the next few days, I started getting private messages. Cousin Beth, who lives in Oregon and rarely gets involved in family drama, sent me a voice note that simply said, "It's about time someone put Madison in her place." A few other relatives, including 2 of our second cousins and my aunt on my father's side, messaged to say they were proud of me for finally standing up for myself. Even my mother's cousin, who I haven't spoken to in years, liked my recent photos and left a comment that read, "You deserve happiness. Don't let anyone guilt you for it." It was subtle, but clear. That validation felt like air after years of suffocation. I wasn't the villain here, I was just the one who finally stopped playing the martyr. And while Madison continued her dramatic monologue on social media and in group chats, the silence that followed her statements grew louder than the chaos she tried to create. Then came a twist I didn't see coming. A few days later, it was my birthday. I didn't throw a party, I didn't need the noise. I just had dinner with Adam and the kids. He grilled my favorite lemon herb chicken, Lily helped stir the cake batter, and Jackson gave me a handmade card with, "I love you 1,000,000, written in his messy handwriting. It was perfect. Quiet. Pure. Later that night, after the kids were asleep, I posted a single photo on my Instagram story, a delicate silver bracelet with a single sapphire charm. The caption read, "Feeling so loved today." I went to bed not thinking anything of it. But when I woke up the next morning, I had a text from my godfather, my late uncle's best friend who lives in Colorado. He's a successful investor, no wife, no kids, and he's always treated me like a niece. The message was simple: you've always been the strong one. For you and the kids. Attached was a transfer confirmation for $10,000 into my account. I sat there staring at the screen, stunned. It wasn't about the money. It was about being seen. Really seen, not for being the easy one, the one who could handle things, but for being the strong one who had handled everything and was finally being recognized for it. I cried. I don't even remember when the last time I cried from gratitude was. Adam came in and hugged me when I showed him. We agreed to use some of it for a family trip, just the four of us, and tucked the rest into the kids' college funds. It was the first time in a long time I felt truly vindicated. As if the universe was finally sending me a receipt for all the grace I had given without repayment. But, of course, this moment of peace couldn't last. Because somewhere between my story post and my godfather's financial gift, Madison found out. I honestly wasn't even going to mention the money to anyone. It felt too personal, too meaningful to be reduced to gossip. That $10,000 wasn't about extravagance or showing off, it was a quiet nod from someone who saw me, truly saw me, after decades of being the one who always managed, always helped, always gave more than she received. I wanted to keep that moment sacred. But I should have known better. Somehow, Madison found out. And it didn't take a detective to guess how. Our mother has never been able to keep a secret longer than 6 minutes, especially if it contains even a whiff of something she can weaponize or dramatically sigh about to make herself the suffering matriarch. I didn't even post the amount anywhere, just the bracelet, just a simple caption. But someone, probably under the influence of wine and misplaced maternal concern, spilled. And once that door was cracked open, Madison shoved it off the hinges. She called me that evening in a complete rage. No greeting, no build-up, just fury laced with entitlement. She opened with a rhetorical dagger, asking if I really got 10 grand and didn't think to send anything for her kids. From there, she unleashed the full storm. I had everything handed to me, I was flaunting wealth while she was struggling every day, and if I truly loved my niece and nephews, I'd step up. She said the words as if they were sacred obligations, as if affection required financial sacrifice, as if loving someone meant fixing the life they refused to fix themselves. I let her finish. Let her spiral. Then I said the one thing she has never been willing to hear. That the money was a birthday gift for me. That I am not responsible for raising her children. That love isn't the same thing as obligation, and being a sister doesn't mean being a surrogate provider. She called me disgusting and hung up. I stared at my phone for a while, not angry, just exhausted. Her voice had a shrill edge I recognized from childhood. The same one she used when she didn't get the bigger slice of cake or when our parents dared to give me something first for once. It was always about what she thought she deserved, never about what anyone else might need. And now, that entitlement had calcified into this narrative where I was the villain, not for hurting anyone, but for simply refusing to be used anymore. The next morning, I opened Facebook to a passive-aggressive masterpiece. Madison had posted a long rant, steeped in self-pity and performative outrage. She wrote about family members who flaunt their money while others are drowning, about people who pretend to be generous but don't even care if your kids have enough to eat. She didn't tag me, of course. But she didn't need to. The subtext was radioactive. The timing, the tone, the melodrama, it was all choreographed to spark judgment. I didn't take the bait. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself, explain, or even acknowledge the post. Instead, I did something that mattered more. I sent $2,000 to my parents. A thank you, not an olive branch. They've helped me a lot over the years, watching Jackson and Lily during work trips, hosting sleepovers so Adam and I could have an actual date night, running errands when I was sick or buried in deadlines. It wasn't a repayment, there's no real way to repay that kind of support. It was just my way of saying I saw them. That I appreciated them. That I wasn't like Madison, screaming into the void for handouts. I was giving something back because I wanted to, not because I was pressured to. They called me that night. The tone was different, softer. Emotional. My mom, usually the queen of backhanded compliments and dramatic sighs, actually sounded surprised. My dad, always reserved, told me it wasn't necessary. I told them I knew that. But I wanted to. And for once, there was no lecture. Just a pause long enough to be real. A few days later, they reached out again. This time, it wasn't about me. They said they were worried about Madison. That she'd been spiraling. That she wasn't sleeping, was constantly angry, and had hinted that she might lose her job again. They weren't asking me to do anything, but I could hear it in their voices, the hope that I'd slide in, once again, to rescue her from the cliff she keeps walking toward. I didn't. I told them gently but firmly that I can't be her lifeline anymore. That my kids need a mother who teaches them boundaries, not one who's constantly bailing someone else out of the consequences of their choices. That I'm tired of being expected to absorb the chaos of others just because I appear stable. I think it finally sunk in. They didn't push back. In fact, my dad muttered that she needs real help, not handouts. My mother didn't say anything for a long time, but when she did, her voice was tired. She admitted that she didn't know how to help Madison anymore. That for all their excuses over the years, nothing they gave her had helped her stand on her own. That was the moment I realized something had shifted. Not just in me, but in them. The narrative that had governed our family since childhood was finally cracking. The golden child, the invisible daughter, the endless dance of guilt and appeasement, it was all coming undone. As of now, Madison and I are no contact. There have been no texts, no calls, no passive-aggressive photos of her kids with captions about what family really means. The silence is strange, but freeing. My parents are trying to stay neutral, and for once, they seem to mean it. They still talk to both of us, but the pressure to fix her has evaporated. Even they are beginning to see that enabling isn't the same thing as loving. And me? I've stopped feeling guilty. I've stopped over-explaining, overcompensating, and overextending. I still buy my kids nice things. I still post pictures when we do something fun. But now, I do it without that voice in my head whispering, will this upset Madison? Because I'm done walking on eggshells around someone who built their entire identity on being the center of everyone else's sacrifice. In the end, it wasn't about the money. It was never about the cake, or the shirts, or the drones, or the Facebook posts. It was about drawing a line. And for the first time in my life, I didn't let her step over it.